ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. Well, welcome to the Roundtable, everybody. My name is Robert Bannon, and you're listening to us on Broadway World over here on the Broadway Podcast Network, Spotify, YouTube. I'm everywhere. What we're so excited it is summer. I'm not even in my office with the brick wall behind me because it's hot. It's hot, which means it's time for summer. Summer means it's time for camp. Unless you're my students, which means then it's time for summer school because you should have come to school and done your homework so you can have the summer off. But for other students out there in the world, some of my favorite memories as an educator and as a child was doing theater as a kid during the summer. I had the privilege of teaching musical theater camp in New Jersey for years. The place to go for a lot of people ask me, where can I go to let my child who loves to sing and dance and wants to be on Broadway go? Well, go to the people who really do it for real. Go to the place where it all happens for real. Camp Broadway is what we're talking about. And Susan Lee is here. She's going to tell you her official fancy title and all the information so you can jump on it for next year or hear about what's going on this year. They have great shows coming to you and a whole bunch of, 150 kids showing up. Susan Lee, welcome to the show.
Robert, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today.
Before we talk about camp, and you look so wonderful, and where are you in the world? It looks nice and sunny.
Thank you. Well, I'm up in Rhinebeck, New York, which is where we live. It's a beautiful day. Kids are singing and dancing all over the country, and Camp Broadway starts next Monday.
Camp Broadway goes from the 7th to the 11th?
It is indeed, and kids come literally from around the world. We'll have kids from over 45 cities. 45 states, 80 cities, and 6 foreign countries. I mean, it's really amazing and a testament to kids, how much kids around the world love to sing and dance.
They come from all over they get a hotel, an Airbnb.
They do. So Camp Broadway started 30 years ago. So I feel like I'm all grown up and have literally watched a generation of artists and audiences grow up. But so Camp Broadway started because I was a kid that loved the theater, but unlike you, had no talent whatsoever. So I had traveled around the country with big shows, and I'd always found my way to the business side of the industry. And I met Dory Berenstein, and the two of us cooked up this idea. And so we started Camp Broadway as a place for kids who loved musical theater to get an authentic Broadway experience. And essentially, we were one of the first enrichment programs on Broadway that wasn't either for little kids or for kids who were ready for pre-professional work. We were for just kids who loved it. And that was 30 years ago, and we helped launch a cottage industry. There are now musical theater programs all across America, and the industry needs an army of people like you, dedicated professionals who have worked with children at that formative age where they need that loving and coaching and encouragement from people who know how to do it. There are so many creative kids out there. So yes, we'll have kids from all over the country, and parents get into the act. So we do classes for parents, and we do a panel for parents on raising theater kids. So, it's not just singing and dancing. There's a lot to it.
It's funny because there's a stereotype like Gypsy that, the moms and the dads and the parents of these kids are all going to show up like stage parents and know this business. But that was not the case for me. I didn't have parents like that at all. They knew nothing about this business.
No, you're absolutely right. And indeed, most parents are like that, so what we find is when a child announces to their parents at 10 or 11 or 12 that they want to go into theater, parents just don't know what to do. And so that's part of the appeal of Camp Broadway, because we're not steering kids to be professionals. I love them if they're singing and dancing, plumbers and doctors and lawyers, or anything they want to be. It's important that kids have arts in their lives. But for those kids that are really interested, parents like sending them to Camp Broadway because it's a more intensive experience than they can get in their own in their own hometowns. And parents trust that they can put their kids in our safe environment. And kids are really smart. They get to see, oh, there are a lot of really talented kids up here. And they get to meet professionals and they get to understand what this world is really like. And so we're just as happy if kids decide they can be a performer. Certainly, we've had many of those. But when kids want to be, they meet a stagehand for the first time, or they meet a costume designer for the first time, and they get to see the broad range of opportunities that exist in the industry. And so parents, it's sort of an eye-opening experience for kids to level set, but also to get a much broader understanding of the many careers that are available to them.
This is so wonderful and so amazing. And my parents sent me on an audition to Ain't Misbehaving when I was a kid. And apparently there was no role for me in that show, because there's not. And like, they were lost. They were like, we'll send him anywhere. We'll go to the town. Like, they just were looking for, this is your spot, a trusted space.
Exactly. And we're finding that we're working with other arts organizations around the country because parents just don't know how to be a good consumer. If their kids announce that they want to be a professional sports player, they know what to do. Or if they want to be a doctor, they know what to do. Or anybody in the trades, they know what to do. But this is just so vague, Yes. So parents sometimes just need a safe place, because we're not steering to any one college or any one program. We just say, you have to be good consumers. And ultimately, kids say, do I need a manager? Do I need an agent? Do I need to go to an expensive school in a major city? No, a smart child that has a good background and understands who they are. There's lots of ways in New York and around the country for them to get good experience. I always tell parents the best place to call is their local performing arts center.
Yes.
And I'm surprised at how many parents just don't think of that.
Absolutely. That's when I grew up in New Jersey. And even though I was close to New York, some people couldn't get across this to New York. So if it was New Jersey Performing Arts Center in Newark, or if it was different, I worked at those summers and got those generations ready. But what I love about yours is that they're kids with like minds. Sometimes kids don't feel comfortable in school. Right. They're the theater outcasts. They're the drama nerds. They're the ones that get bullied because maybe they're more artistic or more different than the other kids. You provide a safe space for them to learn their craft.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they meet all kinds of professionals. And again, we're always talking, it's as important that we help nurture the parents of how do they raise a child that likes this? And what's so gratifying is that so many parents are noticing early what their children's passions are. I was not a kid that kicked a ball. I wasn't interested in sports, and I know so many kids that aren't. And it's so important now that parents can identify their child's passions early and nurture them along.
Absolutely. 100%. As someone who in my day job is a English teacher in a high school, we need to let the kids be who they are and encourage them to be the best version of themselves. And that's what you do. 7 to 17.
7 to 17. So we have a program for little ones called Shining Stars, which is 7 to 9-year-olds. And when you hit 10, you hit our main stage. And main stage is 40 hours of singing, dancing, acting, masterclasses, all in preparation for a showcase that we'll do on Friday for the families. We also do a field trip to Times Square. This year, we're working with producers of Boop. We're so excited about that. It's the perfect show for a multi-generational family. But the team there is going to do a big behind-the-scenes workshop. So the kids are going to see what a stagehand does and see what a lighting designer does and what a dresser does. And then we're going to have a great lunch, and then we're going to take them to see the show. And literally in 4 days, we're going to put on a big showcase at the end of the week.
You put on a show in 4 days?
That's right. We don't do the whole show. We get permissions to do songs and scenes from the show, but everybody gets a part, and we have our own opening and closing finale number that has been going on for a long time. So it's as real a Broadway rehearsal and production experiences that the kids can get in 5 days. But to your point early, families will literally be coming from China, from Indonesia, from Brazil, from Italy. And what happens is families who love the theater use this as a great summer vacation to come to New York. And the kids, in addition to the show that we'll take them to, they may see 4 or 5 other shows while they're here. So we are like the official destination for theater loving families.
I'm obsessed with this whole idea. Now it's too late to join for now.
It is. We're already going to be announcing next year. This is our 30th anniversary, as I mentioned. So we have lots of cool things happening this year. The other thing that we do that parents really are excited about is that we started a Camp Broadway ensemble. So every year we do a performance with the New York Pops at Carnegie Hall. We're going to go back to Radio City this year. You have to come. I'm going to make you come and sing and dance with our kids, because I think you would get a real kick out of it.
I will come do anything with you, Susan. I will teach for free. I don't even care. I just want to be around some kids that make me smile.
Well, I want kids to meet people like you, because you got bitten by the bug when you were 12, right?
Sure.
And how did that happen? How did that moment happen?
I was in The Wizard of Oz in 5th grade. And then I went to see The Beauty and the Beast on Broadway. And I was like, this is what I want to do with my life.
That's right. And and then that bug, then it kept you going your whole life long. So it's always exciting for us when we can introduce kids to people who have been happy, healthy, grown up to have a successful, prosperous career.
Well, at 18 I was going to Juilliard, and I quit the business because I got scared of this world. And I always tell my students to not give up and be afraid of, because so many people give you the doom and gloom stories. And then they tell you, I went on a bad audition. I got called in for Rent when they were replacing a Roger, and I had a bad audition. And I said, this isn't for me. And I always think, if I didn't stop, if I didn't take a break, like if I would have kept going. And sometimes perseverance is something that people need to talk to you about, and having role models and mentors to reach out to. I had no one.
That's right. And it's funny because, and my age, I didn't have anyone either. And I mean, I had started my career as the advanced person for Yul Brynner and the King and I, traveling around the country. And in those days, I saw that there just weren't a lot of programs for kids. Right. And I said, but I was lucky enough. My parents took me to the theater when I was little, but I didn't want to be a performer, but I liked this world. And one of the things that we talk a lot to parents, there are many, many, many ways for people to have a full and satisfying creative life working in the arts and entertainment industry. The being on stage is just this much of it, right? There's so many ways to be creative. You don't have to suddenly be selling insurance.
Right. Yes, no. And you can be, there's the business side and many different aspects of this.
So many things. Yes.
I was reading some of your alumni that have been to the camp in the past, like Tony Award winner Ali Stroker, or Frank DiLella, who went on to be, he's not a performer on Broadway, but he's a superstar.
And it's so funny that in almost every award show that you see, somebody is thanking a parent or a teacher who noticed them when they were a child, right?
Yes.
And I think, that the arts now, the arts has always been important, but the arts now is a really important way to teach kids life skills. You talked about tenacity, empathy, collaboration. These are skills that are going to be valuable in whatever job you have in life. And so it's funny, I'll tell you a quick story. We were invited by a major advertising agency. Oh, what a lovely dog.
Hi, Diamond. She's an attention hog.
I have one too, but I'm not in a minute. But a major advertising agency, I was telling, they were lamenting how, young people just don't know how to get up and tell a story anymore. And I said, well, we teach 12-year-olds how to do that. And they said, could you come over and have your team show our executives how to tell a story, how to connect with people? And it was real funny. We took them to a show, and after the show, we arranged for every one of the executives to take a moment, walk on stage, and talk for 30 seconds about themselves. You could tell which of those executives had gone to a musical theater camp or had arts in their classroom, because they had a comfort. And I think, we've Camp Broadway over the years, we've traveled around the country. We've been in places around the world. We've had about 50,000 kids come to our camps or our performance events. We've been in the Macy's parade 15 times. We've really tried to create this really powerful experience that kids remember for a lifetime. But we've done 400,000 kids in pre-show workshops, and all of those kids have an experience that opens their eyes to possibilities. And so it doesn't matter to me how many stars I create. What matters to me is how many great humans we create, and to give those kids the confidence that they need to be able to stand up in front of the room and articulate a point of view, whatever it is. And you as an educator, you as an artist and an educator and a performer and an interviewer, you're a living example of the power of just one of these experiences can have on the lives of these kids. And so I'm very bullish about the future in terms of where the role that arts can play in creating a better society and creating more articulate people and getting people to look at each other in the eye and say hello and be respectful. I think that Camp Broadway is a little microcosm of just what we can do. And now 30 years later, when Dory and I first started Camp Broadway, there was nothing like this. And now most performing arts centers around the country have an outreach or an education department. The industry is understanding the importance of having programs like this to introduce kids to the many careers. How else are we going to develop the next stagehand, the next designer?
Absolutely. And scientifically proven as an educator, people who study music and who study theater are automatically better at math. They have better reading skills. They have better communication skills. It is a skill set that is invaluable no matter what career you go into.
Absolutely. And that's why the work that you're doing is so important, because you're elevating this work, because there's just not enough places to talk about programs like Camp Broadway or to talk about what's happening in schools. And in fact, a story that I sometimes share. So I was the CMO of the Nederlander organization for many years. And it was, I'm from Pittsburgh, so I was aware of the Gene Kelly Awards, and that's how the Jimmy Awards was started, because I was at Nederlander and I saw that by the time kids are 15 or 16, they don't want camp anymore. They want a real professional experience. And so it was, in talking to Van Kaplan, I said, well, could we create a bigger national program inspired by the Gene Kelly Awards in Pittsburgh? And that's how the Jimmy Awards came to be. But it was all inspired by the work that we did at Camp Broadway.
Susan, that's incredible.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just somebody who loves it, so, and wanted to sort of use every opportunity to create opportunities for kids to have really memorable experiences. And in fact, it was, we still run the Roger Rees Awards, which is the greater New York chapter of the Jimmy Awards. So we'll have you come to that next year.
I would love to. I would love to be on the red carpet. I would love to see what you all do. I love Roger Rees' story. I love the people that are behind it, his partner, the whole thing that Scott, the whole thing that has gone on with what goes on with what you do. I was going to ask you, what exactly is the Broadway Education Alliance? And is it a partnership with something else? Is it a standalone?
Oh, no. So, it was funny because after I'd had every job I could have in the theater industry, I said, well, my life's mission has really been about enabling arts education, arts, enrichment experiences. So we actually created a nonprofit called the Broadway Education Alliance. And it was through the Broadway Education Alliance that we built the Jimmy Awards, is one of our programs. I donated everything to from Camp Broadway to BEA. So the Broadway Education Alliance is now working at the intersection of arts education and arts enrichment. We're developing innovative programs to help stimulate more enrichment programs, help support others who want to do programs. we're really excited. I'll tell you more about it. We partnered with Music Theater International, and we've created a program called Camp Broadway My Way, which is a 40-hour enrichment program for camps around the country to be able to use our methodology and our systems to create the same program. And it's all about teaching kids the fundamentals of musical theater and the life skills they need to be successful. And so we're piloting that this summer at a number of camps around the country, and we'll be launching it in the fall. But to your point earlier, you know, we need an army of people dedicated to giving kids these opportunities to understand who they are as people, to tap into their creativity. And Camp Broadway is just, you know, we're really pleased that we were kind of the first to do it in the Broadway environment. And we're really pleased that over the years, we sort of launched a new category of this sort of musical theater engagement. And it's so important to the future of our industry, I think.
It's so important to the future of civilization and society.
Well, thank you for that. That's big.
You know, when I was in acting school, my acting teacher used to say that arts is what documents history. It's like a noble profession that documents the times we live in, and the people that are going through it now are going to write the great plays and the great musicals, television, theater, music, movies of the future. It's how we document civilization. And I think we need to really respect and value the role of an artist in this world.
Yes. And we're always so pleased that we can introduce kids to works that might have happened before Disney, you know, because if, you know, a child needs to understand that they can learn a lot through the arts, right? And just like one of our pilot camps is doing Guys and Dolls, and it was a revelation to kids, and they love it once they have the opportunity to experience it. So I think Broadway has so much to be proud of. It's such an important sector. But, you know, because everybody gets so busy, we don't take the time to sort of shine the light on all of this great, the impact of what the arts does in our communities, in our societies. And I think in the summer, it's particularly important when kids aren't anchored by school, that they have safe places to go and collaborate with others, and to really, it's fun to do it. And it doesn't matter how good you are at it. It's the process that's so important, not just the production at the end. And that's what we want everybody to feel comfortable and excited about. You know, you don't have to be the next whoever, you know, it's be yourself, but tap into all of those places in your heart and in your soul, and all those ways for you to express what's inside. It's that uniqueness that we want to bring out. Everybody's a star at Camp Broadway.
Everyone's a star at Camp Broadway. So where can we
star?
CampBroadway.com.
Yeah, go to CampBroadway.com. You'll see we offer programs throughout the course of the year. Some more are coming. But, you know, it's always a great pleasure to work with others in the industry, because you've got the love, you've got the passion, you've got the drive. And I bet you've had as much of an impact on so many kids as we have had at Camp Broadway. And so you're definitely a comrade in arms.
Well, anything you ever need, and my show is your show. And I can say this as an educator, the greatest joy I've had is helping that kid break out of his shell, helping that kid feel like they belong, feeling like they have a gift to share. And it's the gift that education gives to kids and parents. Yes. You can give that gift to your loved ones as well.
That's right.
Thank you for what you do. I have two important non-related Camp Broadway questions for you.
Go for it.
What did you get the Emmy for? Who got the Emmy and what's
it? Thank you. Thank you. We got an Emmy award. The great Frank DiLella, who I mentioned earlier, and his partner, Cody Williams, partnered with us during the pandemic. And we did a virtual Roger Rees Awards. And it won an Emmy Award for Best Educational Programming at that time. And Andrew Barth Feldman was one of our hosts. So
Speak of the Jimmy Awards.
speaking of the Jimmy Awards, he came from our program. We've had 4 winners over the years, which we're really pleased about. But yes, we won an Emmy Award for that, and we're really proud of what the Jimmy Awards has become, and having had an early hand in helping to craft that program as well. But we have to keep root for the home team, root for the Roger Rees Awards, because we're now working with over 100 schools.
It's amazing. That is amazing. Amazing. When you talk to Frank DiLella, remind him that he stole my job. That's my job. Frank took my job, Frank. I want to host on stage on New York One. Man. Secondly, that joke with him, I say it every time. He is the best. Secondly, is Yul Brynner, when you worked with Yul Brynner, did he really have to have the dressing room painted a different color before the show came in?
I was in my early 20s, and I was honored to be the advanced person for Yul Brynner and the King and I. And yes, as we traveled all around the country, he was really, really smart. And what he did is we recreated his dressing room everywhere around the country. And so his color was chocolate brown. So he's famous for chocolate brown dressing rooms. And a few years later, I had the opportunity to meet Ann Miller, and she said, "Oh, you're that little girl responsible for all those brown dressing rooms." And I said, "Yes, Miss Miller, I was." So all across the country.
That folklore, that story's been told, and I remember hearing it as a kid. And when you said that, I said, she is not the one who painted the dress, got them brown.
I am the one.
Susan Lee, you are an entertainment folklore legend.
I am the one. And so, on another day, we can talk about, so I love theater history and knowing where things came from, and the great, and what words mean, the expression, meet your nut, which is a theater, you know where that comes from?
No.
So it comes from in the early days of vaudeville, when they traveled from city to city in train cars, that when they would come into town, the sheriff would take the bolt that hooked the train to the engine, right? So that he wouldn't give it back until you'd paid all your local expenses. And that's where the expression, "Have you met your nut?"
Oh, will you come back on?
Yes. I love theater expressions. And I will say, Mr. Brynner was the most extraordinary person and performer. And what I learned from Mr. Brynner is the respect of the audience. And he said, because, when their experience of the show starts the minute that they buy the ticket and has to last all the way until they get home. Because if at any of those points it breaks down, it affects his ability to entertain them. But Mr. Brynner taught me so much about what it means to have high standards in the theater, what it means to be a star in whatever work you're doing, not just on stage, and to meet the expectations that your audience has, So he was an extraordinary artist, an extraordinary visionary, and a really great mentor to me.
I'm a fan. He's a legend, and I'm seeing him in his films and videos is amazing. So you learned quick what it's like.
I learned from the best, and in fact, it was the King and I that helped build and help stimulate the growth of performing arts centers all across America. So I feel lucky in my 40 plus career years that I've sort of watched the industry grow. And I'm so excited to where Broadway, the theater, and theater artists can go in the future.
Well, we're here for it. CampBroadway.com. Sign up for the information and look all year long for the program and get ready for next summer. Start planning already for next summer when it's the 31st year.
31st year. And we're going to have you singing and dancing with our kids in no time at all. Okay.
I'm ready. You say the word. I'm there. I'm there.
Thank you.
Congratulations. What you've done is amazing. It's such an honor to talk to you and hear all about it.
Thank you. Right back at you. And congratulations for all your successes.